Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. As usual, I don't know what time it is where you are, so I'm going to say all three. You join me and the awesome fellas from AlphaPicks, which, as you know by now, is Jay and Alex. And we will be going over, as usual, the major themes. I say we, Alex is normally the brains of the operation. Going over themes and the market moving news that has impacted the week. And also throwing a look ahead to what we expect coming down the pipe in the near to long term future. But before we do, a special mention to the guys at AlphaPicks. If you don't already follow them on the socials, do so. I'll put this in all the bios of all the podcasts we put out on the podcast players. Do subscribe to their Substack. The content they put out is phenomenal, and most of it is free. How and why they do that, I do not know, because they could charge and they should charge a lot for it. But there you go. Take advantage of it whilst you can. As usual, nothing discussed on the podcast is trading or investment advice. Nothing is an endorsement, nothing at all. Although if anyone does want to throw some money our way to sponsor the podcast, we'll take it both hands.
Yes,
I'll buy some knee pads if I need to. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But on that bombshell, gentlemen, how are you?
Very well, very well. Well, actually, I say very well. I'm going to start off with a slight tangent on this fine Friday morning. So it's an investing story which has lessons for all of us.
Did you do your mum's pension in Fartcoin again?
Not again, not this month anyway. So let's rewind to the start of 2021, shall we?
Oh God!
And Deliveroo launches an IPO. Okay, and as you know, IPOs for growing tech companies can be very profitable.
They can. Yes, I'm with you so far.
So I decided back in early 2021 to buy £1,000 worth of Deliveroo shares in the initial perspective and got filled, which is fantastic.
Oh, I think
so. Anyway, I had that, but with those sort of, those ones where they're stored with Equinity and it's, very, it's not like in a night or anything, you kind of forget a little bit about it. And I got a letter through the door this morning, because I don't know if you saw the news, but Deliveroo have been bought out by DoorDash. Now, would you like to guess what my net sale proceeds are after holding a growing, ambitious tech company for 4.5 years? From my £1,000 initial investment.
Oh God! See now, if you would have said this without the preamble, I would have said you've cleaned up. But obviously, I'm going about £10.50.
I'm thinking a same ballpark. It's right.
I mean, I haven't been diluted that much. It's £460.80.
Fuck off! Oh, sorry, I forgot to say at the start. This is recorded live, so people may swear. But I'm going to repeat myself. Fuck off.
It's a stinker, isn't it? Absolute stinker.
Why? I'm sorry. I'm now disgusted on your behalf. How have you made less than 50% and you've been in there?
I'm basically down over 50% after a chunky holding period from a tech company that was meant to be like the future of food delivery.
I'm sorry. Just to be clear. So you've lost money?
Yeah. My net proceeds from £1,000 are £460.
Sorry, I thought you made like just less than 50% profit. I didn't think you'd lost money.
No. If you pull up the Deliveroo share price chart, which I did this morning, it's massively underperformed over the past few years. I don't know how, don't know why, but yeah. So a little bit of a somber note to start off.
Mate, sorry. I'm sorry. I don't mean to laugh. I'm trying not to laugh. I'm thinking of like Margaret Thatcher naked, but I'm sorry.
I'm looking at NASDAQ right now from the start of 2021.
Don't, Jesse. You absolute dog.
100% exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, look, it's an investing lesson. Look, like you don't always make money on your
quite. Although if you would have told me if I would put into our Deliveroo 4 years ago, would I be up or down? I would have said, well, up. But surely the question is how much?
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
Oh, mate.
Anyway, but that's that.
Can we just make the whole show about this, please?
Yeah. The poor investment. But we'll talk about other relevant things in the market now. And actually, Ryan, I wanted to get your take,
God.
actually, as the commodity man over here.
Okay.
So Trump's been in the news several times this week, doing deals with Australia for rare earths. And he's also put some oil sanctions on a couple of Russian companies. And obviously this morning he's cut negotiations with Canada, which is quite farcical in terms of the advert, but whatever. I wanted to go to oil for you, actually, because obviously WTI has popped on this news of the sanctions. And actually, when you look at the past 3 days, it's up 7.5%. So it's not just been like a pop that's retraced on the news, but has actually kept going. So do you think that actually this is something, if it stays in place for a while, or even if Trump goes after Putin via this market more, that you think you could see this materially bump oil in coming months/year?
Well, yeah, it is a tricky question.
Sorry, have I thrown you on there?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
It is a tricky. Also, I was trying to order a hot toddy, my second one of the day. But we'll pass on. But look, this start, rather than just talk about what I think is going to happen next in crude, which is always is always making a rod for my own back. If we just talk about the sanctions in general, to begin with, I think it's really important. I am a massive disbeliever in sanctions, mainly because of how they're implemented and how they're used by policymakers. They're always a weak hand played poorly, in my opinion. For instance, the EU are now on their 19th round of sanctions. What have they really achieved, apart from making it more difficult for Western companies? Now, don't read into that I'm saying that we shouldn't be penalising Russia. What I'm saying is they should have gone everything straight away and really penalised them. What we've seen here from Trump is, and also bear in mind, this is only the second sanctions package under his current term, is he's gone for the jugular in effect, because how Rosneft and Lukoil weren't already sanctioned is beyond me, because they are two of the biggest revenue drivers for Russia for outside capital coming into Russia. So I'm very glad that they've done that. It's also triggered the EU to act. Now they've said, now Trump said that we can't be seen to be outdone by Trump. We'll bring in the 19th round of sanction packages. It's going to be focused on energy. Also, we're going to finally ban LNG imports. Although EU being EU, they're not going to come into that ban. Sorry, it's not going to come into effect till 2027. At that point, the war might be over. We hope it's over. I mean, what a fucking no rush, lads. You know what I mean? What a fucking joke that is. In terms of what it has to crude, I actually said to a very good friend of mine that's a institutional crude trader. I actually put it on Twitter. We were talking on Monday about he was short. He was just starting to build a long position. And I said it was a perfect time. But I said it for the wrong reasons. I said we were at the kind of price levels where I could see OPEC plus, OPEC Infinity, whatever they want to call them now, come out with some kind of sources and whatnot to try and put a bid into the rhetoric. We haven't seen that, but we saw it from Trump. What we'll now see is, obviously, because Russia is part of the OPEC plus, they are basically the plus in OPEC plus. My eyes are now focused on what the OPEC reaction is, because basically we've removed the plus from OPEC plus. I would love to see what OPEC members and sources come out with, because that will be where we go next in crude. One thing that kind of did throw me a little bit was, I believe it was Wednesday, I'm sure I saw on PIQ, top-notch aggregation platform if you haven't used it before. I know the guy's quite handsome little man, loves a drink. What I did notice was the Kuwaiti, a minister for energy in Kuwait, actually came out, words to the effect of, we'll happily pump more if we need to. And I'm sitting there going, this is completely the wrong message you want to be sending at this time. So again, where do we go next? Do I think the bid falls off? I think it probably does, because I think structurally the market hasn't changed. In effect, it's only kind of Russian crude going to China and stuff. But also you've got to look at it. China will still get, I think that's potentially bigger news, is that China saying we're going to stop seaborne imports of crude to China. Problem is, it's very easy to do ship-to-ship transfers, away from prying eyes, and still get seaborne crude from Russia. So, futures for show cash for dough. Yes, the futures took a pop, but I'll be really interested to see where the physical market reacts and how that reacts from here. One thing I would like to say, and I know we're talking about this quite a lot, but it is a bit important, oil makes the world go round. Anyone you see talking about Venezuela, bit of a tangent, I know, but it's like Venezuela have the biggest oil reserves in the world, like by a long shot, and it's only thanks because they're a socialist-run despot, banana republic, that they're not making the most out of it. Two things to note, right? Trump is not going to Venezuela for the oil. USA are now energy independent, so they don't need other people's oil right now. In fact, lower oil prices actually hurt the US in a way because it's impacting the US producers. And this, remember, US exports a lot of crude. Also, Venezuelan crude is very, very shit quality. Also, it's going to take 5 years, 10 years to get their production up to speed because of how shit all their infrastructure is. So anyone you see saying that Trump is going into Venezuela for the oil, please point them in my direction so I can tell them to fuck off. And that's my little rant for you. To be honest, I think I'm owed a rant because I haven't had a rant about Rachel Reeves. So take this.
It's true. Yeah. I mean, it's on the bingo card, either Rachel Reeves or Venezuela. It's good. It's good we're building up the triggers.
Jesse's sitting on there's like a 200 to 1 shot. There's going to be Venezuela. He's getting paid out today.
He's getting paid big time.
Insider trading.
Sorry about that, guys. Sorry about that.
It's all right. And then going from that element across to rare earths with Trump as well. Jay, do you want to sort of run us through a little synopsis / your thoughts on that from your piece yesterday as well?
Yeah, so it was my main kind of thought coming into the week as we heard about the Australian meeting in Washington that was going to happen early in the week. And critical minerals have been like the big kind of topic over the last week and a half, 2 weeks. And while the US are they've had that deal with MP and trying to boost production locally to move away from China, they were never going to have the facilities and the cost effectiveness locally to get everything they need. So they're turning to an ally in Australia who have the 4th largest reserves of rare earths, behind Brazil, India, and China, who are largely first. So it was kind of just looking at, do we think there's kind of a continued theme here in these critical mineral mining companies? So there's a few Australian names which have moved higher this week, and also over the last couple of weeks into kind of these events. But also it's just looking at potentially a more speculative bet of US-Brazil relationships were maybe a little bit tainted on that second round of tariffs when they got hit with the 50% because of BRICS and trying to make a point maybe to other nations. Trump hit Brazil with the 50% tariffs. I do wonder if down the line we might get some talks between Lula and Trump, and if critical minerals, because of Brazil's high reserves, are part of the conversation the same way that the US has turned to Australia to help the situation.
I love you for what you've just brought up there for 2 things. One, I think it's very important to raise the point that, sorry if you can hear music in the background, I've just decided to put the music on in my office. So I'll move away from that, move away from the speaker. One thing we've got to kind of mention is the fact that there's a difference between having the resources or the reserves of critical minerals and rare earths and the refining capacity, because getting them out the ground is one thing, but then if it's India, but then you've got to ship them somewhere else to be them refined. Whereas Australia kind of scratching both those itches. They have the rare earths and they have refining capability. Also, they're very much a friendly nation. Like, you've got the AUKUS military pact for the submarines and stuff like that. So, they're already cleared at a very high level, which is very, very important. So I'm glad you raised that point. Regarding Brazil, again, nailed it as well. Go back a few months ago. It feels like 6 months, could have been 6 years for all I know at the moment. Brazil weren't very in favor. Lula wasn't very in favor with Trump administration. However, what I will say is not only are they sitting on a load of rare earths, but agricultural beef price as well. We're seeing beef is now in the news all the time in the US. Beef prices, Trump's making statements all the time about it. Again, initially he's going to go to Argentina for it, but Brazil is also a massive, export market for beef. One thing I would also flag, again, bringing back to Venezuela for some reason.
Bingo.
With what's going on with Venezuela and now Colombia, the Trump administration need friends in South America. Now, they have one with Milei in Argentina. Obviously, a massive election going on there on Sunday. There's a reason why the USA are basically, getting their investment banks like JP Morgan, etc. There was a load of fucking private flights going down that way recently. You wouldn't mind being on one of those planes to bail them out. Well, I say bail them out, to basically give them lifelines or checks for 40 billion. So they're doing that to curry favor and try and keep Milei's government in power because they do not want the alternative, which is a less friendly Trump government. And I think that goes for Brazil now as well. They're now looking at Brazil and go, okay, we were, you weren't our friends 6 months ago, but we do need another economic powerhouse in the region on top of what's going on with Argentina, because we might lose Milei. We might lose Milei being in power. So I think we're going to see a softening approach from the US for both. Well, obviously, we've already got a very soft approach from the US towards Argentina. But I really think we'll see a softening approach to the levels we see with Argentina with Brazil for those reasons. I think it's a shrewd play, right? Because they want to keep China out of these markets, because the last thing you want to do is shut her down and have an export ban with China and whatnot on rare earths. But then China all of a sudden say, okay, well, you're not going to deal with us. You're going to deal with Brazil. But hang on, we're going to beat you and we're going to send them, God knows, gazillion investment package. And now they're part of the, was it Belt and Road program again? And all of a sudden we can't get rare earths out of Brazil either. So it's it's basically, it feels like a race for who can give these South American countries the biggest paychecks to get them to commit to exports and stuff. That's just my very, very stupid take anyway. Please don't put any
no, it's true. I mean,
stop it.
It's very sort of 3D chess style, isn't it? And it's like,
I struggle with snakes and ladders.
yeah. Pac-Man. Yeah, I know. And it's one where also it's quite hard to read. Sometimes it's like, it's that bell curve thing, isn't it? Where you try and read too much into it. It's like, there's very like super intelligent takes and super dumb takes. And then in the reality, somewhere in between, because it's like, how much of this are these countries actually correlating and thinking about those second order and third order moves versus actually what's just the primary objective. And I think particularly with someone like Trump and his administration, I'd be tempted to actually say they're looking at the more immediate impact of it. And I don't know how smart they are to look sort of that far down the line. But
the thing is, I would say but it does tie in with what they're doing in Australia, what they've already done in Argentina. So I do think it's not looking forward that much, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah.
Well, they're outright slagging off, that's a technical term, the Venezuelan government and the Colombian government. They're very cozy with the Argentinian government, and Brazil's sitting there going, well, we're the biggest country here. We've got a lot of exports. How do you like it? And Trump's going, well, actually, do you know what? We might as well make friends with you. That's my very lowbrow take.
No, I don't think it's a lowbrow take. I'd be interested to see if that manifests itself, which in theory we should see without too much. I mean, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen imminently, isn't it? And as you mentioned, next Friday, I'd be interested to talk about Argentina and see what happens there over the weekend.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring it slightly back. Another one was, obviously, we can't ignore corporate America, which is basically in full sort of earnings swing this week. Didn't know if any companies caught either of your eyes. A couple of big ones I spotted was obviously like Netflix, who basically missed earnings expectation. They dropped basically 6% in post-market trading. That was Tuesday. And then Tesla was the other one that caught a lot of people's eyes, also dropped. Interesting stat for you. Tesla have now reported weaker than expected profit for 4 straight quarters. And obviously on the earnings call, Musk basically just went on these
same person, to be fair.
Yeah, these random rambles about his pay packet and how we should be looking just more about robots. But ultimately, how much can one man, back up the share price, I think is becoming increasingly perilous. But the other one that I thought on the flip side was very good was last night was Intel. I don't know if you saw this, which we've actually spoken about on here before, because we've owned Intel since the start of the year, I think it was, and we sold half of it because it popped. I think it's ripped like 90% in 3 months. So we sold a chunk of it, and then obviously going into this is sort of the first sign of what it was going to be like post, the SoftBank injection, post US government taking a stake, post Nvidia deal. And actually it looks pretty solid. Like, they've posted a positive profit since 2023. Outlook looks strong. Everything sort of looks groovy. So whether Intel, as I think all of us thought, has always been for our careers, basically a bit of a dinosaur that, keeps making mistakes. Do we think Intel could potentially reinvent itself viably? I don't know, but I certainly think that it's shaking off that reputation of always being the, dumb kid in the back of the class.
This is why I like Intel. I feel like it's my spirit stock. All right, Jay, you're not meant to laugh too much at that. I heard you in the background. But so firstly, obviously, hats off to you guys. This is another reason why people should be following you guys on the Substack, etc., because you do put out all of this ahead of time, that this is your thesis, this is your baskets, etc. So congratulations that you made your 9%. Shame you didn't do it with Deliveroo, but you can't all win. They can't all be winners. But one thing I would say is, and funny enough, it was Adam Rossi, our good friend Adam Rossi on Twitter. Well, also a good friend in real life. I've met him where I am now in my office for a beer a couple of times. One thing he mentioned that which really I hadn't really thought about before was he was talking about, and this is again a bit of a segue, but he was talking about not Venezuela, but JP Morgan, about it's America's bank base, it's America's investment bank. It should always be successful, but and if it ever got into any trouble, that policy is going to wrap around to their whims almost. And I kind of think that potentially is what we've seen with Intel. Intel is America's chip darling, right? An administration, especially something like the Trump administration, hindsight is a wonderful thing, obviously, but it kind of all does make sense. Trump administration doesn't want to see a company like Intel go down on its watch, which is why, one of the first companies that the Trump administration put money into, we're seeing that, any deal that's come along with chips, it has to be, where, they're trying to make it incorporate some form of Intel, maybe part of their fabrication facilities, or Intel are having a piece of every pie. So on that note, because of that, and it does feel like, this is, like American football, America's game. This is America's chip company. I think, you're fighting an uphill battle by betting against them. Now, does that mean that? So basically, what I'm saying is, I would never go short. Not now the Trump administration's in place, and not now we've got that. Even though it's had a massive rally, whereas before the Trump administration came in, potentially, it feasibly, blatantly was a good short. But really, right now, with what we're seeing with the AI data center build outs, the fact that it's got the government backing, the fact that Trump, I say Trump, it's the government, but it is Trump. The fact that Trump is long this stock, I really find it hard to make a case for any bad news to be coming out from a policy or from a investment standpoint. Yes, they might have some bad headlines where maybe some, like a fabrication facility is slowed down or delayed, or issues with a chip they built. But these are things that you can work around. But I think the intrinsic qualities of the company have gone from strength to strength, and I really don't think you'd want to bet against that kind of, momentum. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, you have thoughts on this, and
Yeah, so I think you do make some good points, Ryan, and I definitely agree it's not one to bet against because it has the backing. And I think Intel have made so many bad decisions over the previous decades with not kind of moving towards the latest technology, and they've always been this like dinosaur tech company. I feel like because they have the backing of like SoftBank and the US administration, once that was in, they were always going to make this pivot into the 2025 theme of AI.
Yeah.
But they didn't really have any option not to, because the whole point of being backed is to bring this dinosaur back into the modern age. And that's kind of what was brought out from the earnings. That's why even with a high bar, like a lot of analysts were kind of cautious on the stock because it was up 90% this year. I think the optimism about the forward outlook and their transition is what's carried the stock higher overnight.
I've got a question for you, and it literally just popped up whilst we've been talking. Is there a parallel to be made for what's happened with Intel? Again, thinking of US darling or US kind of, named brand for Boeing. Because Boeing, yes, we all know Boeing have had some they've been in the wilderness for a number of years now. Well, and the smarter people than me. I was going to say us, but you're much smarter than me anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But people are putting that down to the move from an engineering kind of ethos in management to a management ethos. They've stepped away from the engineering side. Now, they've definitely made movements on the, in terms of the corporate structure to get back to their engineering roots, where engineers are being promoted up the ladder, etc. It sounds like the whole workplace kind of ethos, etc., is kind of coming back to that engineer-driven, performance-driven, rather than just looking at the bottom line from accountant perspectives. Could we potentially see what we've seen with Intel happen with Boeing? And what I mean by that is, it doesn't take a lot for Trump to now start going, we need to get behind Boeing. They're, a number one US brand, biggest in the world. You can almost picture the speech now. And then next minute, because Boeing price is, it's languishing. It's not exactly so with all these setbacks they've been having. It wouldn't take a lot for me to see or envisage or imagine Trump giving the same kind of rousing kind of rhetoric behind Boeing that he's done to Intel, and potentially even government investing into Boeing. I know this is a bit of a tangent, but at least it's not Venezuela. But what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I think the angle.
Again, I might have jumped the shark. I apologize if I've jumped.
No. I think yes. I think in terms of like how Trump would spin it, if he did spin it, would be on the whole like critical infrastructure, critical technology, national security angle.
Yeah.
Which, when you think about it, Boeing does have, because
you can make an argument for it, right?
It is a contractor for military aircraft, weapon systems, etc. So if you look at it from that angle, that I think would be the pitch as to why Trump might want to get behind it.
You can picture the pivot, right? It's not like I'm saying he's going to get behind like Chipotle or something like that. This is something that
Starbucks.
Yeah, this is something that feasibly he could get behind because of how tied it is to government kind of procurement. It is like the poster child for American technology and manufacturing. I might have to buy. What's Boeing trading at the moment? Where are we?
I was going to say,
where are we?
I'm going to put me £460 from Deliveroo and Boeing.
Well, I've got the chart up here. What's interesting is I was actually, whilst you were chatting there, just comparing it to Airbus, who is their biggest competitor. Yeah. From January 2020, Airbus, obviously the COVID crash hit those stocks quite hard, but Airbus is up 65%. Boeing
from when? Sorry, from when?
From Jan 1st, 2020.
Okay.
Like just this decade. And Boeing...
Yeah, I know how decades work. Thank you.
So Boeing is still down 33%.
Sorry, say that again. I was laughing. Sorry.
Boeing's still down 33%.
Yeah. And Airbus is up 70 something, did you say?
Yeah, 65%. And the divergence has been very sustained since about summer 2021. So Boeing does have a lot of catching up to do, and I don't necessarily think your thesis is too far-fetched that Trump...
Well, there we go. So in terms of where do we sit on the 52-week range?
It is at the high end. Oh no, wait.
Oh god, he's got it upside down.
No, there you go. So we're at... I need to change them.
Just talk about yourselves, guys.
I've got year highs at 236. And it's at 217 now.
Where's the low?
Close. The low was
128.
Oh, so look, we're near the top end of the range, but highs make highs.
Well, I'm seeing where we're at 2030, otherwise known as the end of the decade.
Yeah, you wanker.
I think it's December 31st. 2026.
Okay, Boeing, I like it. That's one.
I might put a tweet out on that later, Ryan.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate it. Here's one for you. With our good friend Sitz, with the kind of the portfolio building application that he's put together, which looks fan-dabby-dozy, technical term for you. Has anyone put together a thematic basket of like the Trump investments? And how is that doing? So that'd be an interesting way to. I know from me personally, I would love to be able to track it on there if anyone's done one.
This is something me and Alex have chatted about a couple of times over the past few weeks.
So that's like 28 days ago.
yeah, roughly about 14 days ago.
We have an article in draft called "Shaking Hands with the Government."
Oh, stop it! I swear to God, listeners, I did not know this.
Yeah, it will be. I said to Alex, it will be slightly more of a fun one, kind of looking at what the US is buying up themselves and making speculation on some other companies. I think BA is a great shout on the speculative side of that basket.
Well, there you go. I'll take my cut out the management fee.
Yeah. So I think I'm just trying to work my way back from my Deliveroo. But
Oh God, I'm not going to let you forget that. I'll be honest.
But anyway, I appreciate we've run slightly over today. But I think some great conversations and thoughts brought up there. And I was that's stuff for me.
Just one, not necessarily a stack attack. I won't make this a question for you, but just an interesting observation. I was looking at the fear greed index, which is at 28, so I'm in fear territory. But we're less than 0.4% of all-time highs as of yesterday's close, which I wonder how many times that's happened.
I'll be honest.
We'll have a look at.
There's few things I hate more than a fear and greed index. I'll be honest, I absolutely fucking hate them. I think they're the most pointless thing out there, to be honest.
I don't ever look at them apart from when everyone starts putting them on Twitter.
I'll be honest, that's the only time I ever see them these days because I try and stay away from them.
But I saw it on Twitter and I was like, wait, we're basically at all-time highs and apparently this
Yeah, right. This is what I mean.
It's just a bit weird. Yeah, all-time high soon.
Yeah, exactly. Giddy up. Right, cool. Well, guys, thank you so much as always. Again, I can't stress this enough to our listeners. Do follow the guys on social media. Do follow their Substack. It's just the research notes they put out every week are phenomenal. Yeah, and guys, thank you as always. Love chatting to you. I'm going to go and order something off Deliveroo just out of spite now and have it delivered to the Stafford. And
I'll be doing the delivery.
Even better. What's your code, boss?
Yeah.
Sorry. So anyway, but guys, whatever you're doing, have a great week. Have a great weekend. We hope you've had a profitable week, and we'll see you all next